What happens when you're able to escape God's view while He teleports everyone to another world for special training, but you're stuck by yourself for 1,000 years? Well, you get an angel and can become incredibly strong. Welcome to today's recap of Everyone Else is a Returnee. If you want an angel as well, destroy the like button, turn on the notifications, and comment down below. We really look forward to your feedback. Our story begins with Yu Il-han standing in front of his campus, surprised how there was no one there. He was walking through empty hallways, questioning if he's the only person in this school. He waited for a bus driver that never came, so he decided to walk home and take a nap. Maybe it was all just a dream. When he got home, he went into the house and called his mom, but she wasn't there. So he looked at the clock, and it was 2:45, the same time he left for school. He checked the time on his phone, and it showed 2:45 as well. He should have been gone for 2 hours at least, but the sun hasn't moved either. It looked like everything around him stopped, except for him. Then he heard a woman's voice behind him say, "Yes, that's right." Il-han turned around and saw an angel. "Earth time has stopped right now, except for you," she explained. He asked her who she was, and the woman responded that she is exactly what she appears to be. He asked her if she was a home intruder. She jumped in surprise and defended herself that she isn't, and that she has 2 wings and a white dress. How can it not be obvious? Not connecting the two, his next guess was cosplay. She gave up and introduced herself as God's emissary, an angel named Lita. Lita came to visit him to tell him he was left behind. Il-han's mind replays all the time, and there was a lot he was left behind. First, in elementary school's field trip, where he was forgotten and left behind by himself. Then the training retreat in middle school, math field trip in high school, and even for university membership training, one night for clubs and stuff in UNI. Falling desperately to his knees, doomed that he was left behind again. The angel, smiling, told him that all humans were sent to another dimension, except for him, because the Earth will be going through a great cataclysm. Lita proceeds to explain to him what that is. The great cataclysm is that Eon's Earth is leveling up to the next stage because it has reached the maximum number of experience points. So for high-ranking individuals, mana will be released and archaic record will make contact with Earth, and the humans can get a sense of that record that they shall call status. It was like a game. Once mana is released on Earth, monsters will also appear, and they cannot be killed with simple guns and swords and bombs. That's how strong they are. So if mankind isn't helped in some sort of way, they will be at risk of being annihilated by the monsters. That's why God Almighty stopped the time axis on Earth and sent all the humans to another world so they could have time to train and adapt to the mana. To be precise, their real bodies are kept safe, and they are sent into another world in avatars to learn to use mana, so they'll have at least a bare minimum to go against these monsters. Il-han asked if monsters can be killed with guns and big explosions, but monsters formed by high-ranking energy wouldn't even die from a nuclear missile, and that's why there's a need to strengthen humans. God is so merciful that He arranged for all of mankind to learn mana. So what about him? Why was Il-han left behind yet again? Lita tells him that there's been a mistake. He angrily asks her to fix the mistake. She explains that the dimensional portal has already been closed, so that will be difficult. His stealth skill, that even God couldn't recognize, is really amazing. He screamed angrily how a god that stupid exists and threw himself on the floor in a hyper tantrum, saying to send him to another world to learn mana. She tells him that God took pity on him since he was left behind and decided to give him a bonus. Il-han was still unhappy, screaming that he didn't need it. He wants to learn mana too. She tries to calm him down, saying that will be difficult until the great cataclysm happens, and it will be 10 years until mankind comes back. But she'll take care of his meals. He just needs to wait. For 10 years? What is he supposed to do all by himself? Angel suggested that he can train his body for the upcoming great cataclysm. He was confused because he still wouldn't be able to use mana. She said with a big positive smile that he just needs to be physically strong. He wasn't happy with that, so he cried to just send him away too. Lita said no, impossible. So his lonely life on Earth began. It's been 5 years since humans disappeared from Earth. During that time, Il-han worked hard at the gym, while other people were building up their mana and developing powers to resist the monsters in another dimension. But all he could do was work on his physical strength. Lita, the angel, asked him if he wasn't bored doing the same exact thing every day for 5 years. "It's not like I have a choice," he replied. "He has to do it, so he does it." Over time, his muscles have developed a lot together with his strength. He gained a strong physique. Lita was admiring his patience, since usually it's not easy for people to focus this hard on just one thing. She told him that he is no ordinary person and that she already knew that since he avoided the eyes of the god with his stealth techniques, but he interrupted her and defended himself, asking her if she is saying that it's his fault. She laughed. Lita was the only person on Earth he could talk to, so she came to visit him once a week, and she was also preparing his meals. When it was time to eat, his table was automatically filled with food that tasted better than his mom's cooking. Even the dishes were done automatically. Pretty handy. Ilhan was talking to Lita that now that he's built up his basic fitness, he's considering learning martial arts or how to use weapons. She was wondering how he would be able to do that since there is no one there to teach him. He told her that he can teach himself with the help of the internet. Electricity and the internet both worked, so he was using the uploaded videos that were made in the past. He asked Lita how come the internet is still working and hasn't failed already, and she reminded him that time has only stopped. He was annoyed and asked when she would stop answering all his questions with that. Ilhan was training with a stick outside. Lita reminded him to pay good attention to the basic movements too, and that he has 5 years left anyways. 4 years of studying martial arts passed just like that. Lita offers him to spar with her since he would improve faster if he has an opponent. He was surprised that she was asking him to hit her. She replied casually not to worry about it and attack her, even if she says that. Since she is his angel Nuna, of course he will attack her. He attacked, saying, "Feel the power of 9 years of loneliness and resentment." But Lita was a star of potential, born for fighting, and with one hit she blew him in the sky with ease. She mocked him, saying, "Do you get it now? Don't worry about it and use me as a sparring partner. Major bleeding comes for free." She smiled at him. He said he doesn't want to attack her again and to give him a chance to refuse. But she answered by saying, "Let's go again." His scream was heard in the distance. And so the promised 10 years all went by. Lita told him that with that level of martial arts, he should be able to defeat low-level monsters without a problem. And if he levels up, he will be able to use mana, since she taught him herself. "It's evidence of his skill," she said proudly. He asked if it isn't more accurate to say that she beat him up herself. She changed the topic and told him that he has done a great job in these 10 years. And now that the great cataclysm will come, a lot of things will change. He asked her if he would be able to meet her again. She said that it depends on him. It's not long until the great cataclysm will begin and people will start to come back. It's been so long since Ilhan had seen people that he was a little nervous. It's a shame that he had to say goodbye to Lita, but finally he can go back to his usual life. Lita was flying away, but was surprised when she turned back. Nothing was happening. She went back to him. He was understandably angry that no one was appearing. She gave him a shy smile and said, "It seems like there's been some kind of mistake." Again, he throws himself on the ground, screaming out of his lungs the F-bomb. He hates her. And now the axis of time has gone off. Does he need to wait another 10 or 20 years now? If that's all it takes, he'll wait until the end. Time went by, 10 years, 20 years, even 50 years, and people did not return. He grew a lot stronger in that time, strong enough that his blows could crumble rocks, and he stopped counting the passing time. Lita asked him, and he answered that he no longer remembered his mother's face. That cut deep, and she felt sorry for him. He asked how far off is the axis of time. He's bored of martial arts now. Lita tried to calm him down by saying that the great cataclysm could start at any moment and he shouldn't neglect his martial arts and training. She worried if Ilhan had fallen into despair. He has been basically alone for 60 years now. He brushed it off, saying he'll keep training while he reads good books too. His answer gives her hope, and she encourages him by saying that's a good idea. After that, he reads books all day long. First, modern novels, then business books, general knowledge, history, geography, physics, chemistry, art. And so, he ended up reading all the books in the library. He decided to learn other languages and began to travel the world, starting with China, followed by Russia, America, and so on. And he learned several languages and read all the books in the world. A very long time went by. Lita told him in the library that this was the last book. She asked what would he do. What is it with him? Why doesn't he get tired? He answered that he has no time to be tired. There are so many things for him to do before this great cataclysm. Yu Ilhan, even after several hundred years alone, still believed that people would come back. Everything was in preparation for the great cataclysm. Lita was praying to the Lord to please let the humans return before Ilhan will reach his limit, before he gets tired and gives up on life. Ilhan hunts and successfully kills a wild boar in the forest. After reading every book in the world, he started learning butchery and blacksmithing. He asked Lita if he kills every animal now, won't it prevent the monsters from appearing? She said he can kill anything she will allow him, but if he kills all the animals, the equilibrium of the natural world will be destroyed. She continued to explain what monsters actually are, but quickly covered her mouth with her hands. He was surprised and asked her why she stopped talking. Is she just baiting him right now? She told him that he should just pretend that he didn't hear that. He brushed it off and said that in any case, he needs to learn butchering skills. Lita was amused by him. How interesting he is. He's able to find new things to do without fail. It's been 274 years since he was left behind, and that's a long time, even for angels. So it's shocking that a human, who can't even live for a century, can devote himself to preparing for the future this entire time. She thought about what an incredible person Yu Ilhan was as he successfully butchered a boar. His final goal for butchery was a sperm whale. Lita was angry, saying that sperm whales are an endangered species and therefore prohibited from hunting. He asked her if she could let it go just this time, as he was standing on the beach next to a sperm whale. After mastering butchery, he took up blacksmithing, but it wasn't as easy as it seemed. He was making a sword, but wasn't happy with the result. Lita took it from his hand and joked that she couldn't even slice a radish with that sword. Ilhan wanted the sword back, but Lita said she will take the sword as a commemorative item. Since he didn't disappear, even after the world reset, he should thank the gods for that as she flew in the air with a sword. He screamed after her, "Why are you always trying to annoy me?" Ilhan continued to train outside, and Lita was thinking to herself how he's progressing. He's experiencing several generations worth of progress in a single body. But it's already been 1,000 years since he fell behind, and as a human, he'll reach his limit sooner or later. And when that happens, what will he do? She was thinking that maybe if he could experience something new, it would be nice, something that he hasn't done before. It would have to be something like opposite-sex relationship. She blushed on her own thoughts. Angry as to how she could think such vulgar things, she is an angel after all. But her mission is to help Ilhan. This is just following God's orders, she persuaded herself. If Ilhan needs to experience it, then she'll do what she can. Ilhan noticed her weird behavior, so he asked her what she was doing up there by herself. He had to ask twice to get her attention. She came to him and with a smile like nothing's wrong, asked him what's wrong, questioning herself how she could bring that topic up. But then her sword started glowing blue and moving in her holster. It flew up in the air and Lita went after it. She could not afford to lose it, as it was the first sword that Ilhan made. As Ilhan called after her, he noticed he was suddenly in his old clothes. Everything around him started returning to the day that Earth stopped. As Lita prayed to her god to keep the sword, she noticed that the great cataclysm had arrived. Ilhan was propelled into the sky, and the two saw each other for the last time, regretting this is how they part ways. Ilhan hopes that if he can become a higher being, he would get to see Lita again. People magically start appearing all over the world. In front of Ilhan appears a status window with his name and all other skills information, so he figures that the day of the great cataclysm is finally here. As he walked outside, he heard people talking about status windows and that they came back in only 10 years. It seems like he has been the only one who has fallen behind for 1,000 years. Then he heard people complaining that all their stats have been reverted back to the original. All those people around him seemed to not react to him, as they weren't able to see him. He noticed his active skill, stealth. He's guessing if it could be because of his stealth that no one notices him. He tries to turn off passive stealth, but it's not working. He starts getting frustrated as he can't turn it off. He is fated. He feels like he is born to be separated from others. He gave up and didn't care anymore, so he decided to go back home. But even though nobody can see him, he's happy to hear and see other people on the street. He comes home and a female voice screams his name. It's his mother. They both get very excited to see one another. His mother, whose face he could not remember anymore, was there, and all the memories came flooding back as soon as he saw her. After 1,000 years, he finally sees a sunset, smells the dinner being cooked, the sizzling sound from the frying pan, and his dad reading the newspaper on the dining room table. everything seems back to normal. Dad complained that there's no news on Haisea, and Mom asked if he was on Haisea since she was at the place known as Yamen with other ladies in the neighborhood. Dad says that Haisea was perfect except there was no rice there. Mother shared how she couldn't figure out how to use mana because it's hard, and Ilhan felt down because he was unable to participate in their conversation. Mother turns to him excitedly asking him where he was. He was sweating and decided not to tell them the truth, since it will make them worry. He said he was in a place with no name. Dad continued to complain how hard it was to learn to use mana. Ilhan joined in, saying that they had to do that, otherwise the balance of the world would be off. They looked at him confused, and he was reminded he told them something he shouldn't. So he said that's what he thinks, trying to not blow his cover, otherwise he'll raise suspicion. Luckily, it worked. Mother asked him how it was for him, which made him uncomfortable. She continued excitedly explaining how she heard if you are good at mana, you can be rich. It said that monster corpses are worth a lot of money. Dad explained that people who utilized mana are rare, so they'll definitely be able to earn more. Ilhan felt so weird hearing his parents talk like they are gamers in a fantasy game. He put his chopsticks down and got up and told his parents he can't use mana. His mother, smiling, said that he can just focus on studying. Dad was blaming bad genes since he's unable to use it well. They took the news way too easy, thought Ilhan. He decides it doesn't matter enough for now, as he is just happy that everything's back to normal. When he came to the room, there was a red spear, which really surprised him. It was his ultimate masterpiece he created throughout many years of perfecting his blacksmith skill. He thought it would disappear when the world reset. Lita did try to prevent it from disappearing, and maybe that's why it didn't. So he decided to use that to fight monsters instead of searching for new weapons. The status window for the spear appeared. It read on it that it's a miracle that was made by a human without using mana, and so strong and sturdy, one would easily believe it was made of the bone of an intermediate monster. There were also attack power and durability, but he was unsure if the number was big or small. He sat next to the computer, excited to collect new information. After reading all the books, it was refreshing to see new posts and texts. People who have returned have already started uploading all the new information they learned. He started learning how strong you have to be and what monsters you can fight. A normal person could fight up to level 5 monsters. One generally needs to be around level 7 to be chosen as lowest ranked soldier in other worlds. Starting from level 10, one can gain classes like swordsman, archer, and others. And when they reach level 50, they're considered strong and proceed with second class advancement. Third class advancement is possible at level 100. From that point onwards, one would be considered a precious resource of the country. But due to hellish conditions required to level up to third class advancement, there are no reports of fourth class advancement. But many conjectures say that a high-ranking monster like a dragon or a Bahamut would be in the fourth or fifth class. He gathers all the information he could so far. He plans to ask more around at school the next day. He felt like normal life wasn't affected as much as the world was. He said that he misses Lita. A voice said Lita will be glad to hear what he just said. Ilhan freaked out and turned around, saying, "Who was that?" The voice said from the other side that it has been dispatched by Havens to help him learn to use mana. He turned around and saw an angel with black hair. She introduced herself as Eartha. He was stunned. Once again, an intruder appeared in his life. He encountered a second angel. Eartha, sitting on books as she was very small, explained to him that it's very difficult to manage mana, so that's why God made her into an avatar and sent her to a different world for 10 years to train in mana, and that's why she's here, to help Ilhan. There was someone requesting that he get additional help, and it's unfair for him only to be left behind. That someone requested for an angel to help him learn mana in a short amount of time. Ilhan knew instantly that this was Lita, and he smiled. Then why didn't Lita herself come to help him? Eartha explained that higher-ups were worried an angel and human would become too close, so she was chosen instead. But she noticed that Ilhan is very strong and could defeat low-ranking monsters just with fists, so why was she even needed? Lita was saying that he needs to be taken care of and was lonely for 1,000 years, and feels bad for him, and didn't mention that he was very physically strong. She deceived them. But Eartha had no choice, since she already received the mission. She told him she is the support, so he can use mana with ease. Simply having her by his side activates mana in him since she is a higher being than him. Just by her being here, his mana cognition, control, and application speed will be 10 times faster. Back then, when mana didn't exist on Earth, this wasn't possible, even if Lita was by his side. But since the Great Cataclysm, things have changed. He should master mana with her help in about a year, by her calculations. She was sitting on Ilhan's head, and he asked her if she was going to stay there. She responded that a spell had been cast to prevent lower beings from seeing her, so he doesn't have to worry. But he didn't like her sitting on his head. She followed him everywhere. Ilhan was annoyed, saying that she should let him go to the toilet and shower alone, and he won't be able to watch his impressive, definitely high-definition 1.7 terabytes of treasure videos. Eartha said that she doesn't care what he, as a lower being, does, so he has nothing to worry about. She doesn't care if he breakdances, does Zumba, or plays DDR, but he cares, so they continued the argument. He said he misses Lita, and Eartha fought back, saying she needs to deal with him for a year, so he needs to deal with it. And just like that, his life of living together with a small invader for a year began. Ilhan was on his way to school for the first time in 1,000 years. Everything was back to normal, except for a little angel sitting on his head. He asked Eartha again if she would really stay on his head. She brushed him off, saying no one else can see her. He told her to stop swinging her legs, and they fought again until he noticed a military man running behind him and stopping next to the fence. The government prepared the military for monsters that may appear in the future, so not everything was back to normal. He thought to himself that Lita said you can't defeat high-ranking monsters with anything other than mana, so the military probably won't be effective. As he was sitting in school, he felt as invisible as the other day, so he tried turning off stealth again, and it didn't work. Eartha noticed the skill and said it's not a bad skill. Ilhan was surprised by her comment that he thought it's a loser skill and not good. She reminded him she didn't say it's good, just not bad. She asked him if he made the skill, but he was confused on what she was talking about. She explained that skills are combining tiny bits of mana and pathetic battle experience to process something to use against an attack. For her, as a higher being, even if she combined all of the skills of these people, it would be less than his stealth, and that's what she meant by saying it's not a bad skill. But Ilhan still felt like that's not the skill he wanted, but it was easy to eavesdrop on other conversations thanks to this skill. Even though this is not what he wants to use it for, it's a good chance to gather information. Someone mentioned an empress asking who she was, and it caught Ilhan's attention. Apparently, the empress, who was famous in Landparth for 10 years, was from their university, but no one knows who she is, and they might find out when the first monsters appear. Ilhan assumed there was a person from his university that had outstanding talents and got the nickname Empress. Others were questioning when dungeons will appear, and that they will have level restrictions. Ilhan asked Eartha what dungeons are, and she responded that it's a trap that God has created. First, he sets up food to lure in monsters and then blocks the exit so they can't get out. But humans can enter freely and go if they meet the specific level requirements. It creates a space where humans can safely hunt monsters. Ilhan asked why they don't just keep them there forever since they can't live anyway. Eartha explained that the dungeon keeps monsters only for a certain amount of time so humans can get rid of them or they run free. But there are also monsters that are too smart to be trapped and ones that are stronger than the barrier, and even those who create dungeons and disguise themselves. She advises him to never let his guard down. The teacher walked into the room and told everyone to sit down and he'll call attendance. After that, the teacher gave them a long off-topic lecture. They will have to adapt to changes in society. The UN already brought up banning free use of mana and regulations on leveling up. China and other strong nations are focusing on monsters and environments that will change as a result of mana. Ilhan was bored and thought that the ability to use mana will have the most meaning, and going to university is becoming meaningless unless they will start to train mana. Eartha said that the most efficient way to train mana is to fight monsters, like she just read his mind. He jumped, saying he doesn't want to do anything dangerous. She responded that they are still in the beginning of the Great Cataclysm, so monsters are weak, so he needs to hunt many weak monsters, so he can boost his experience points and level up to train mana. And since he has a very good physique, he will have no problem defeating monsters up to level 25, and that gives him hope. Suddenly, everyone gasped looking out the window. Looks like the first monsters have arrived. All the students were looking out the window at big insect-like monsters. Eartha said that it looks like the trial has ended and now mankind has to survive by themselves. All the students started panicking, and after the first person who tried to fight and died, they all started to run. Ilhan was left alone in the room once again. Eartha asked him if he plans to fight them. He responded that they look weaker than a sperm whale, so he plans to attack. Eartha told him that monsters are different from animals. Their outer skin is abnormally strong, and physical abilities are different. However, they don't seem to be over level 20, so it won't be too difficult. Ilhan went to the wooden chair and broke one of the legs off and swung it in the air, saying it's fine for a weapon because he can swing it well. Eartha once again admired his muscles and balance. He should be able to defeat that monster easily. He took some other things from the room and managed to make a pretty good weapon. Eartha was impressed that he made such a good weapon in that short amount of time, and Ilhan smiled, saying he was getting bored, so he started learning craftsmanship. Eartha remembers how Lita was crying that Ilhan is small and cute and doesn't know how to do anything. So pitiful for him to be left alone. She really wasn't telling the truth, she figured. He achieved quite a lot for a low-ranking human. He turned to Eartha, asking if he'll be noticed since he'll make a scene. Will stealth hide him? He wants to conceal himself. She suggested that wearing a mask should be just fine. He defeated a monster that looked like a big praying mantis. He gained 800 experience points and reached level 3 for stamina, increased mana stats for 2, and strength and agility stats increased by 3. He also obtained the record of a level 13 big mantis, and taijutsu has reached max level, and he is now able to evolve this skill if he possesses the materials. Level is a system where Akashic records and linked organisms from this world will be able to obtain new strength. By claiming your opponent's life, you can take his records and future potential. He was happy that he finally gained mana, even if it's just a little bit. More big fly monsters appeared behind him, and he attacked, saying he never learned how to fight against a group, but Eartha advised him to just use his body. He defeated them and was happy to have gained even more skills and experience, but Eartha said not to relax just yet, looking the other way. Big mosquito monsters attacked him from above, but after killing one, another tried to stab him with its proboscis, but it broke. Ilhan's body had been trained to extremes, and his skin was now really hard, figured Eartha. Ilhan was fighting them, but suddenly monster reinforcements started to come, and he was surrounded by them. He didn't stop killing them and gained more experience for each one killed. Suddenly, the monsters around him vanished in the air. On the opposite side, there was a female figure with a mask on, using magic to defeat them. He was surprised by her, but Eartha told him to focus and kill the monsters quickly. While he fought, Eartha commented that the amount of mana that another person has is unreal for her to continuously use lightning attack. It's insane. He asked her if she's also leveling up like him, and so they did manage to kill the monsters. All the students watching out the window were impressed. Suddenly, a military man came marching through the door, apologizing that they were late and were surprised to see what was in front of them. Hundreds of monsters already taken care of. Ilhan was investigating the bodies of monsters because if he dismembered the monster corpses, he might obtain a mana stone. He needs to remove the mana stone from the hardest part of the exoskeleton, and mana have gathered the most. His butchering skills came in handy, and Eartha helped him by showing him the right part. Others were just watching him, amused. He found the stone. Eartha told him to store it well. It's a core material for all artifacts. He turned around and there were many people filming him with their smartphones. He felt embarrassed, but his identity was still hidden. He was approached by the female that helped him fight the monster. She asked him if he can help her with slaughtering, and that was the first time Ilhan and the Empress met.